Welcome to another stream of InfoWars Press. Today we're going to take a look at sanctions that the United States has applied to Russia on oil and gas, and how they, as recently as January of 2024, have violated their own laws by bypassing sanctions. Understand that if you or I bypass sanctions, they come after us for breaking the law, but they do it themselves. So let's look specifically at the United States. This is coming from Forbes. It says the United States imported Russian oil in November for the first time since spring of 2022. Now let's keep in mind that these sanctions were applied in February, March of 2022. And the United States was still buying oil from Russia, even though it was banned, in April of 2022. So in November, they purchased 10,000 barrels of Russian oil for $749,000. That's about $75 a barrel, which is above their threshold point. Now, they bought even more oil, 700,000 barrels in April of 2022 at $84.90 per barrel. So here we can see that the United States bought in October $2.7 million worth of oil at 36,800 barrels. That comes out to about $73.36 a barrel, just a tad more than that. So you can see that the United States is bypassing their own sanctions and actually paying more than they put a price cap on. Now, we additionally have the situation where countries are bypassing their own sanctions by buying from India and China. Now, one of the things people don't think about is how the EU and the United States actually bypass sanctions. Other than the fact that they ignore them, or they're sending Russian ships out with oil, they transfer it to another ship, bring it into port. This is one of the ways, but like the United States, they do not sanction refined oil. So if Russia sends it to India and India refines it to diesel fuel or gasoline or refined oil, and then it gets shipped to the United States, it's okay to buy it. So these refined products are bypassing the sanctions, but not really bypassing the sanctions. So this is how they get away with telling you how they're affecting Russia negatively, but Russia is still selling to them directly. Now, we look at some more things. We have Reuters telling us that new sanctions in February of this year threaten Russian oil sales to India. And this article goes on to talk about how much oil India has been buying and how they are now importing 40% of their oil from Russia. And we get down to the bottom here, and it says they've been selling it at $8 to $9 a barrel below Dubai's price. But in March 31st of this year, that's supposed to go to about $3 to $3.50 discount. And the refiners are saying that that's kind of a slim discount because there's uncertainties in shipping oil, because now, they're going after the ships that transfer in the middle of the sea. Now, this really isn't going to cause a big problem. What will happen is they will continue selling more through traders to shield from these sanctions. And, so it will still go. Russia will trade it to somebody else who will then, sell it to India. Will Russia have to discount it? Well, not down to the $60 a barrel that Indian hopes they will get. Reality is, with the amount of oil that India is importing, some 40 plus percent from Russia, they aren't going to quit buying it in March. They can't just say, gee, we don't need that 40% of oil from Russia, and we're only going to buy it at a lower price because guess what? The refineries will go out of business. So, this is the thought process you have to put into things. Let's take a look at this. Our favorite CNN says that the US has replaced Russia as Europe's top crude oil supplier. And this article goes on to talk about how Russia had 31% of total imports to Europe, and the US had 13% share. Now, if you scroll on down here a ways, we find that Russia's share has fallen from 31% to about 19. So for ease of numbers, let's say it's dropped about 10%. So that means Russia's still supplying 20%. And it says that the United States is the second biggest supplier at 20%, behind Norway, which counts for 31%. Well, that makes Russia and the US about even. But if we went from 31% to 20%, dropping 10%, the US only went up from 13 to 27%. So, where's the other oil coming from? Well, it's coming from these traders through other countries. And of course, Russia is still shipping a ton of oil and gas to China. So you have to kind of look at some of these things and see where they really are, giving you a story and where they're telling the truth. From Reuters, I want you to note who is buying uh, or who banned Russian gas and oil. We've got Australia, Britain, Canada, and the US, and the G7 countries, including Japan, committed to ban and phase out Russian oil on May 8th of 2022. These are countries still buying fossil fuels from Russia in 2023. So we have China, of course. They refuse to sanction Russia. So a lot of these supplies go to China. But the EU is buying both oil and gas. India, of course, they do not have sanctions either. We have Turkey, United Arab Emirates. But let's get down here to some of the EU countries that have banned the purchase: Hungary, Belgium, Japan, Spain, Netherlands, Bulgaria, Italy, Malaysia, the Czech Republic. So you can see that, what they say and what they do tends to be two different things. This cooperation actually goes in both directions because Europe is also not supposed to be sending equipment to Russia. But as we can see here, they continue sending equipment anyway, gas extraction equipment. So, you know, it's, the more sanctions they apply, the more they bypass it all. So, hypocrites is what it comes down to. So, I'm going to take one look at one more article and talk about it just for a minute. So, this article, in conclusion, so we will go in conclusion as well. So, catastrophic predictions over ending Russian oil and natural gas was exaggerated. That's true, greatly exaggerated. But the US and EU have reduced dependence on Russian oil without provoking recessions or inflationary spirals. Well, let's talk to the people in the EU about that, the people in Germany. They are protesting for a reason. And they go on to say that because of the sanctions, Russian economy will start to suffer. So, Russia will become a poorer country. Is this the case? Actually, no. Their exports have continued high. They have been selling at discounts to like India, but not that big of a discount, and they're making good money on their oil and their gas still. So, and they're selling a lot of it to the EU and the United States at higher prices. So you decide, who are the propagandists in this deal? Thank you. Like and subscribe. We appreciate it. It helps us grow.